Welcome, High Vibe humans. You are listening to the Golden Guyan Adventure podcast.
Hey, all you High Vibe humans. Thank you for tuning in to the Golden Guyan Adventure. Breezy here, and I am so excited to share this new series with you, as I'm sure you are aware from the title, that this is the Spiritual Journey series where I share my spiritual stories as well as my experiences. And this show is dedicated to the evolution of consciousness on this planet through sharing not only these stories, but also empirically supported scientific information that supports these spiritual, metaphysical, and parapsychology themes that we're going to explore. Now, I also call attention to three main themes: health, light, and the fight. And health can mean anything from mental health to your physical health, where light is, again, we're going to be talking about mystical, spiritual, and conscious themes. And then the fight, which encompasses social justice and political issues. So today's topic, we're going to jump in. What is a starseed? Now, this is someone who believes they are here on this earth for a reason. They feel they have a deeper purpose or a larger purpose that isn't realized. There are certain signs to see whether you yourself are a starseed, and I'll just name 5 of them quickly. One is that you grew up feeling different from people around you, that perhaps you were different in some way. You grew up with a sense of misplacement, not like you were displaced from your social group, but literally from a different planet or not from Earth. Or perhaps you had past memories that have kind of awakened within you. You also might have the urge to go home, a deep yearning to go back to this place that seems familiar. A fourth one is that you are attracted to conversations about metaphysics. So perhaps you were guided to this podcast for a reason. And the fifth one is that you've had some sort of spiritual experience, an aha moment, or an awakening symptom that has really turned you on to exploring your spiritual origins, exploring your own personal spiritual journey. So I believe that there are starseeds among us, that each one of us has starseed origins or has light inserted into our soul, has DNA with codes in it that stores information. So I believe that there are starseeds among us. And for 10 years, I've been connecting with these other starseeds. And I believe that our community has been growing ever since 2010. So I believe that you've been guided to this video, you've been guided to this podcast, you've been guided here for a reason. And perhaps you or someone you know is a starseed. So starseeds, I think, are here to change the planet, to shift consciousness, and to also infiltrate businesses as well, and to upgrade our technology. Because starseeds come from different planets with these different cultures. They have different technology and information that they can share with humans. So starseeds are here to help inspire humans. You can look up this information on Gaia. That is one of the resources that I have. It is the 27 starseed characteristics on Gaia. So growing up, I've felt different, and I thought that it was because of the color of my skin. I'm half black and half white, and I grew up in a predominantly white area, which caused my peers to be a little anxious around me sometimes, or to not really know how to connect with me. Sometimes I was teased or bullied. Sometimes I was just left out, and I had to insert myself into social situations and be more outgoing. I kind of felt like I was different in other ways, though. I would find myself lying awake in bed at night, imagining that I came from somewhere else, but it felt real. So imagine me, age 13, young, I would be in bed, and I would dream of being from another place. I would have these dreams of flying across continents, of helping to chaperone souls or other people across these areas. And so I would have these dreams, and I would lie in bed at night, and I would also feel this wanting to go home. So before I'd fall asleep, sometimes I would find myself awake and looking up at my ceiling, looking up at the night sky, looking up at those stars, and wanting to go home to a place that felt more familiar, that wasn't Earth, that wasn't here on this planet. And I would communicate with my guardian angel, whose name is Ray, and I would communicate that I was having a hard time, that I didn't feel like I fit in here, that I was struggling and I wanted to go back home. And my angel would respond with feelings of empathy, understanding that this journey would be hard, but reassuring me that this was part of the plan. And when I was that young, I really didn't understand what the plan was, just having that feeling that this is how things are supposed to be happening. Now, obviously, as a teenager, I yearned to belong to a group. I yearned to fit in. So I'm sure you can relate, because we all seek belonging. We all seek alignment with or kinship with a person, a family, a group. We also want to be involved in a culture with beautiful artistic expression, or a society that uplifts certain values and respects certain parts of nature, that respect nature as a whole. So we want to fit in, and we want to fill our hearts with people who inspire us, and we crave that acceptance and that connection. So to help us identify where we might belong, we find labels that connect us to how we might feel. For example, I also identify as a bisexual, biracial, female American. So with those labels, I can connect to the LGBTQ community through my bisexuality. I can connect with different people from different racial backgrounds through my biracialness. I'm Irish and I'm African American. And so those have certain cultural components to them as well. And then just through identification as a female, as my gender, I take on certain characteristics or attributes as well to help describe myself to other people. It's helpful to have these identities to help describe how you live to another person. It's what we use to communicate our boundaries as well. So whether these labels are based in truth or not, we love our temporary self-identities, the personality constructs with which we build our own personas, which we engage each other in relationships, and how we live and describe our lives. These terms can help bring us clarity. Through my work as a counselor and as a mentor, it's important to help give people words to describe what they're feeling, to describe what they're experiencing. Oftentimes people do have this aha moment. The same thing can be said about the transgender movement that's happening, the idea that body dysmorphia was introduced as a term that people were like, wow, that actually describes what I'm experiencing. And body dysmorphia can also be used in other contexts as well, in relationship to the Starseed community, feeling like perhaps you were born into this body and you are too big for your body. So these terms can help give us clarity and communicate to others how we feel about ourselves. And we often search for these terms when traditional titles and traditional archetypes fail to describe how we feel. We hunt elsewhere, and we might even look to the stars. So it was when I discovered the term Starseed in 2010 that I felt that everything clicked and everything made sense. So if you can imagine, I'm growing up, I graduated from high school in 2008, and then it was maybe 2 years later before I got this word to describe how I felt. Before, I gravitated towards anime. When I was a first grader, second grader, I found Sailor Moon and was very attracted to Sailor Moon. as a way to, because I felt like I came from the stars and it was something that I could connect with. And they had so many themes in there. I would remember playing with my friends, and we created a group called the Sailor Gems, in which I was Sailor Pearl, and Pearl, we all had different gem names, and I had the power of fire, like Sailor Mars, and the power of love, like Sailor Venus, which made sense to me because I am also a Leo, which is a fire sign. And so having those two powers as a young child, that's how I would describe my spiritual energy back then, was be that I was a Sailor Gem and my nickname was Sailor Pearl, and I had the superpower of love and fire. And we also were integrating Dragon Ball Z into that, and we would pretend that we could fly around using our chi, and that we would pretend that we could make chi balls and chi blasts. And this is me at like age 8, 9, 10, 11, pretending to be a Sailor Star, pretending to be a Dragon Ball Z warrior, and then getting into Yu Yu Hakusho, which is another anime where the main character is a spirit detective, and he goes around defeating demons. So I would also imagine myself doing that as well as part of my role. And it wasn't until 2010 when I found the Starseed Lightworker description that it really resonated with me. And that is when I started my YouTube channel in order to record my journey, because I knew my life would be kind of like all the animes that I had been watching. I also want to be a real life superhero. And I think that embodying my starseed self is one way that I can become a real life superhero. So most videos are private on my YouTube channel, starting out from my 2010 journey, but you can view those videos on my Patreon if you are a Patreon subscriber. A quick shout out to all the Patreon supporters. Thank you for subscribing and supporting this community. Shout outs to Erica for being a high vibe supporter. If you haven't checked it out, on my Patreon, I post meditations, card readings, and motivational videos every month. And you can also look at my old content that is really only available through Patreon. So on one of my most recent videos on YouTube, I did cover some of the signs that you might be a starseed. But briefly, again, some signs that you might identify as a starseed is feeling different from others at a young age, not understanding why you can easily love everyone else and that others have a hard time loving people. I definitely found that when I was like 13, 14, 15, that it was easier for me to engage with people who looked different from me, who seemed strange or odd, than it was for my peers. I seemed to give my love freely and openly. So I didn't really understand why others had a hard time. And then another sign is constantly growing up and being told that you were weird or different and never being called unique or admirable or innovative. So if, as you were growing up as a little kid, I would give my love freely or I would be so joyful, people would say that I was weird, and not necessarily inspiring or admirable. And so I feel that that's another sign that you might be a starseed, is if you're a little bit weird because you might sense energies, because you might have some sort of clairvoyant technique, ability, because you might be different in some way that people called you weird, or they might have picked up on your differentness and called you weird for some reason. So definitely feeling that need to fit in while all the while fighting the desire not to fit in. Because you want to be loved and accepted by your peers. But at the same time, you know that that would be kind of selling out if you tried to fit in, tried to be something that you weren't. I definitely feel like I can identify with that, especially in the later years of my life after going through college. While I was in my grad school program, I definitely felt that resistance, that friction between wanting to fit in with my peers and also wanting to express my starseed self wanting to talk more about my starseed origins, about the energy I feel, or about the new science that's coming out about the heart field and how our heart gives off an electromagnetic frequency. Wanting to fit in, but also knowing that I need to stand out, and so becoming conflicted. So this can also make you feel indecisive. This can make you appear indecisive to your peers, which it might add to your weird mentality or name calling. So this can appear indecisive, which prompts more negative reactions towards you, so you become secretive and you alienate others. I definitely have found this to be true, where I would bury myself in anime. Anime has always been a safe space for me to retreat to, because there they do talk about chi, they do talk about energy, they actively have metaphysical themes intertwined in the storyline. So I would always kind of go and become a hermit and watch some anime in order to feel better. But that's the opposite of what we want to do now. 2021 is year one of our new earth. And the reason why I'm talking about being a starseed is because it's important for us to embody our starseed self and to not feel shy, to not feel intimidated, and to really push out the voices of all of those people who would have made fun of us. I believe that there is a group of humans here who have incarnated with the purpose to inspire others, but again, to also continue this ancient story of our planet. When we know where we come from, we know where we're going. So diving into the history of our planet before the Egyptians, going back to the Sumerians, looking at what they were talking about, the origins of our planet, and wondering where we're going with that, and to continue to build off of this deep understanding and knowingness that our planet is very, very old. And what does that mean for our human origins as well? So if you have a beverage or some water, here's a great reminder to take a sip of water at this time. So good. So cleansing. So I covered a lot. What is a starseed? Believing that starseeds are among us, and sharing my personal experience and why I feel I am a starseed. And if you would like to dive deeper into this, In5D is a great resource. They've been around since 2010, 2011. They've been putting YouTube videos out since 2011 about this topic. So they're a long-standing resource. There's a PhD or a professor that wrote something, and he has a PhD that is available as well on starseeds. So one reason why I'm covering this topic is because it's year one of New Earth, and we need to embody our higher selves, and understanding our identity helps us be more firm in who we are. Remember, know thyself, know who you are, and then having that identity. So I'll jump into my Starseed origins in another podcast discussion, but I do believe I am from the Lyrian star system, and I'll dive into that again in another episode, so be sure to tune in next time. But how does this connect to the light? How does this connect to spiritual connection? Well, understanding our spiritual journey is a journey of intuition. It's a journey of tuning into your soul and finding out what resonates with you. Now, when we talk about resonation, we're talking about, do you get good vibes from this? Do you feel a resounding yes coming from your cells? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel this wave of comfort, of ease, of calm come over you? I'm describing the intuition of knowing something is a good fit for you, knowing that this fits with your belief system, knowing this fits with the memories that you might have, the DNA, the memories stored within your DNA. So this is a spiritual journey in which you are going inside of yourself, tuning into your soul and asking your soul questions. Am I from Atlantis? Am I from Lemuria? Did I come from the stars, the Orion constellation, the Lyrian constellation? Have I come from Sirius? Did I come from the Pleiades? Or am I an earth seed? Am I just an old soul that has incarnated on earth over and over and over again, that I have this ancient knowledge and knowingness with me of the changes that earth has been through? When we ask our soul these questions, we might feel a resounding yes coming from us, or we might feel nothing at all, and that will help us discern which is right for your soul. And this information is important because, again, knowing where we come from helps us know where we're going. We incarnated on this planet and we kind of forgot in order to learn lessons, because Earth is a learning planet. So in the process of remembering, once you remember your starseed origins, your earth seed origins, it kind of clicks. The lessons that you've learned all begin to make sense. The skills that you've been developing kind of, you see the big picture. You see your part in the bigger picture once you understand these origins. And what does this have to do with the fight? What does this have to do with social justice? And I love this topic because I myself am half black. So I have this physical experience of walking through life and having people attribute certain traits towards me, certain skill levels towards me. They've attributed things about who I am, or they've assumed things about who I am just based off of the color of my skin and my phenotypic traits, right? And so this is part of the social justice thing, because part of my mission as a starseed on this planet is educating my other starseeds about racism, about racial injustice, and how we have allowed the concept of race to override some of our programming, and that we need to deprogram ourselves from this concept of race, and how phenotypic traits somehow equal intelligence, somehow equal the ability to work hard. We want to deprogram ourselves from that. And so teaching my starseed kin how our physical bodies actually help us learn spiritual lessons on this planet is very important. So that is why I think talking about starseeds is important to the social justice fight, because there are many starseeds who are black. But when I Google starseeds, I see quite a different range of images, and that is slowly changing over time because we are actively changing it, because this generation of incarnated light workers, starseeds, crystal beings, rainbow children are actively dismantling that. So we're seeing that more and more and more. We're seeing diversity come in more and more because we are slowly deprogramming ourselves from race, because race is a construct. It's a social construct that humans created in order to capitalize on and make more money. So that is one reason why starseeds who are of different skin colors also should talk about social justice. But that's just another soapbox conversation for later. If you are enjoying this podcast, please post in the comments. Thank you for tuning in and for showing up. Right at this time, we're going to switch gears and tune into the angels and the angelic beings and tune in and do a card reading. I have this new Starseed deck, the Starseed Oracle by Rebecca Campbell, that I'm very excited to use. I purchased it clearly because I was drawn to the fact that it had Starseed in the name. And it was a new deck, and I was like, whoa, I have to get this. And I saw one of my favorite card readers purchased it, and then I saw another card reader had it, and I was like, oh, I have to get this now. So, again, the deck I'm using today is the Starseed Oracle by Rebecca Campbell. And let's just dive in and ask. let's take some time to center ourselves first, because I always get really excited to do card readings for you high vibe humans. So let's take a few deep breaths together, and we can begin by exhaling the breath that you're on and inhaling deeply. And as we exhale, we invite the shoulders to relax and the stomach to relax. Taking another deep breath in. Exhaling slowly, we invite in all the light beings, all the angels, and our ancestors. And taking a final deep breath, exhaling slowly, we ask, what is it that we need to know at this time? What is coming through about our starseed origins? All right, so we have the cards here. We have 3 cards. One was one that I pulled as I was talking to you. And then we have the other 2 cards here, which are going to help us understand a little bit more about our starseed origins. So the first card that I pulled as I was talking to you is the card of perspective. And it is the planet Earth as a small blue dot in the vast expanse of space. So it kind of gives you perspective. We're zooming out here. We're looking at this bigger picture. We're trying to find common ground. And we're also realizing that none of the trivial things really matter. None of the small stuff really matters when we zoom out and look at the bigger picture. So let's dive deeper into this card meaning. So this card means that we must take a step back and look at the bigger picture of our lives. Step away from the blinkered vision and reactive frame of mind of me against them. The universe is set up in a way on Earth for us to learn lessons. And so when I say that the starseeds are helping to raise consciousness on this planet, it is not in a us versus them mentality. It's us helping others to awaken to their own divinity. There is no other them. Even if you are one such person who looks at the reptilian race, there are good reptilians. There are reptilians that are trying to raise their own consciousness. So change your perspective, shift your point of view, and zoom out, way out. We are but a speck of dust in the universe, yet we think everything revolves around us. We see the planet as ours to own and conquer, pillaging the land and setting ourselves up for our eventual extinction. We build fences and walls and create invisible borders. Mother Earth doesn't need us to survive, but we need her. And it's time to wake up to that fact. It's time to have a new perspective. We urgently need this. We become so lost in our individual experiences that we don't realize that most of the things that keep us awake at night are actually distractions. We're wasting our precious time and resources fighting each other when we should be coming together to heal what has been severed. We must heal together. This moment is a breath in the timeline of your life. This life is a fleeting moment in the tapestry of your soul's experience. Your soul's experience is a flash in the timeline of the known universe. And the known universe is a grain of sand in the unknown universe. So take a moment to see the bigger picture, to find common ground, and to find deep compassion in your heart, to gain a greater perspective of humanity in this fleeting moment in the timeline of your soul's existence, in the timeline of all that is, was, and ever will be. This card comes with a soul inquiry. You are being asked, how are you being called to change your perspective at this time? 2020 was challenging us to change our perspective about who we are, how we live our life, who we associate ourselves with. And now it is truly asking you to step into those truths. If you answered those questions, you have to step into it and actually act and be and do it. So what is our starseed origins and how can we better understand them? So as I was these two last cards here, just generally asking, tuning into our guides about our starseed origins, we have the blue flame, and we have this message of jump in, which is coming from the Andromeda energy. So let's jump into the blue flame card here so that we can get those intuitive messages. And before I just turned right to the page. So this card is all about spontaneous awakening, activation, and integration of time. This makes a lot of sense to me because a lot of people are experiencing awakening symptoms. Perhaps you've been guided to this podcast because you've been experiencing an awakening of some kind. So this is a confirmation card for you. This is a card of awakening and energetic upgrades. Perhaps you're going through a period of spontaneous awakening, receiving visions and having experiences that are out of the ordinary. In the West, little is known about the process of spontaneous awakening, and it can even feel very scary when we're going through it alone. Elsewhere, it can be seen as auspicious experiences, with those going through them being treated with tender care. The blue beings, as depicted in this card, there is a blue being that is emerging from an ancient Egyptian stone temple. The blue beings are thought to be activating beings with great potential for healing and upgrading our cellular structures. They appear in moments of extreme awakening, activating a physical kundalini awakening and deep cellular and DNA healing. Many people glamorize the awakening process. However, in reality, it's much messier and more difficult than most of us believe. We must first let go of what we think we know for sure and how we make sense of the world, which kind of felt like what 2020 was forcing us to do. And it wasn't easy, and this process isn't easy. The awakening process, even when it's spontaneous, takes a considerable amount of time to integrate. An awakening without integration can leave us feeling very ungrounded. If you're in the midst of an awakening, the process never ends really. But if you're in the midst of it, treat this time as deeply sacred and give yourself ample space to ground and integrate the extreme changes that you are going through. So this is just confirmation that you've been guided to this podcast for a reason and that you are going through an awakening cycle. It's important to treat this as a sacred period. This is an activation card that comes with a affirmation. So I'll state the affirmation twice so that you are able to either write it down or state it aloud for yourself. The affirmation is, I allow myself to surrender to the awakening process that's right for me. I take things slowly and integrate my experience each and every day. I allow myself to surrender to the awakening process that's right for me. I take things slowly and integrate my experience each and every day. Take a breath. And as you exhale, be grateful for the intuitive messages that are coming to you now. Thank you, angels. Thank you, light beings. Thank you, ancestors, for supporting us at this time and for this energetic message that's coming in right now. The last card is Jump In, which has a lot of adventure and is encouraging us to say yes to change. So as we move through the month of January at the beginning of 2021, we have to acknowledge all of this change energy. And I have talked about that on my Patreon card reading video. I talk about how the angels are really bringing in a lot of this change energy. And it's important for us to say yes, to jump in and to not be afraid of the change that's coming to us. Because if we have if we've focused correctly, we should be able to manifest the world that we wish to see. We should be able to manifest outcomes that benefit us on the whole. Am I saying that correctly? benefit us at large. All right, so I'm having difficulty finding this card in the book. There it goes. All right, so jump in. Andromeda is a spiral galaxy, the closest galaxy to the Milky Way. It's believed that Andromedan energy starseeds are a group of beings who love their freedom. They're very adaptable and have a strong willingness and ability to change and go with the flow, to find calm in the chaos, to swim with the tides. This card is here to encourage you to do the same. Perhaps you have a significant goal or opportunity ahead of you. If so, you're being guided to jump in. Do not wait for permission. Do not stall until you feel ready. Take a deep breath, a good old run up, and jump right on in. Life bends for the courageous, and courageous is what you will be called. You're already facing in the right direction, and you've already faced a lot of difficulties. The only thing left to do is to leap, and you'll figure out the details as you go along. Things may not always be smooth sailing. Life on Earth rarely is. However, it's the rougher seas that teach us how to sail with glory. And once you know that, you can navigate any sea, ocean, or storm. The Andromedans want you to fall in love with surfing the waves of life, to seek more adventures, to embrace your own adaptability, and to find ways to be calm in the chaos. You didn't come to Earth to be passive. You came to Earth to truly live. Now take a good old run-up and jump on in. This card has a soul inquiry, and it's asking you, how can you be more adventurous? How are you being called to jump right on in and experience life? So as a starseed on this planet, sometimes we might feel like we have this mission or this goal or this opportunity that comes to us, and we might be afraid to do it because of what other people will think. We might hesitate for one reason or another, and this card is pushing you to do it. Do not be afraid. Do not hold back. It's pushing you forward. All right, High Vibe humans, I'm excited to share more of my spiritual journey with you and get more in depth. In the next episode, I hope to share my starseed origins and a few more of the visions that I've had that make me feel like I am a starseed here on this planet. I hope to see your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. Thank you for subscribing and following this podcast and for sharing it with someone that you think will benefit from it. All right, High Vibe humans, until next time, stay healthy, stay light, and don't give up the fight. Breezy, out.